So let's talk about it. Why your job feels like a religion you never actually signed up for. We're going to unpack this feeling that, let's be honest, is becoming way too common for so many of us.
It all kicks off with this question. Ever feel that? That kind of bone-deep tired that rest just can't seem to fix? It's a feeling I think pretty much all of us know. It's this nagging exhaustion where, no amount of sleep, no vacation seems to actually get to the root of the problem. It's a weariness that feels less like it's in your body and more like it's in your soul.
And here is the first thing you absolutely need to hear. You are not malfunctioning. That feeling isn't a sign that you're broken or that you're just failing to keep up. Think of your exhaustion as a signal, not some kind of personal glitch on your part.
Right. So if it's not you, then what is it? Well, the problem isn't you. It's the system. It's completely misaligned. It's built on these hidden rules and invisible values that are just fundamentally out of whack with what it means to live a good, sane life. And that is exactly what we are going to dig into.
Okay, first up, the myth of neutrality. We're going to start by taking on a really big idea. This myth that economics is some kind of neutral, objective science, like physics or chemistry. In this misalignment, it shows up in our lives in some pretty weird, contradictory ways. I mean, just look at this list. Does any of this hit home for you? Always busy, but never feeling whole. Having tons of options, but no real direction. You accumulate all this stuff, but you lose your sense of what's actually good. You look successful to everyone else, but you just don't feel significant. And this last one, oh man, feeling guilty just for resting. That one's a killer. This quote really gets to the heart of it. We've been trained to think of modern economics as if it's reality itself. But here's the thing. These rules weren't discovered like the law of gravity. They were designed. We treat things like supply and demand as if they're these unchangeable laws of nature, but they're not. They are a set of man-made rules built on a moral foundation that tells us what we should want and how we should live.
Okay, so that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. The source material calls it our binary curse, and this is all about the hidden logic that's really driving so much of our anxiety today.
So what exactly is this binary curse? Well, it's this deep-seated cultural logic that judges every single outcome as either a total success or a complete failure. There's just no middle ground. There's no room for simply being or for being a work in progress. It's this all-or-nothing game that we are forced to play every single day.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. This table shows exactly where that black and white thinking comes from. It's basically a modern, secular version of an old religious framework. The ideas never went away, they just got rebranded. Heaven became success, hell became the fear of irrelevance, sin is now just called failure. And salvation? Well, you find that through achievement. The names changed, but the psychological pressure, it is exactly the same.
And that's the trap, isn't it? This is exactly why a reward is often followed by this feeling of emptiness, or why a big achievement is followed by confusion. Because you're playing a game that's designed for you to never stop seeking. Even when you win, you get the promotion, you hit the goal, it doesn't bring lasting peace. You feel good for a minute, maybe, but then it fades. Because that salvation you get from achievement is always temporary. It doesn't set you free, it just raises the stakes for the next level.
So how did we even get here? To really get it, we've got to go back in time. Let's trace how economics went from being a branch of theology to the quote-unquote science it claims to be today. All right, this timeline is super important, so let's walk through it. Way back when, around the 1240s, thinkers called the scholastics saw economics as part of moral theology. It was all about how to live a good life. Then, in the 1500s, the Protestant Reformation comes along and creates this powerful new idea that worldly success is a sign of God's favor. Fast forward to 1776, and Adam Smith still calls it a moral science, but he starts to separate it from the old way of thinking. But the really big shift comes with guys like David Ricardo in the early 1800s. He's the one who really pushed to make economics a technical, amoral subject, like it's just math. And by the 20th century, that idea completely took over. Mainstream economics officially declared itself a value-free, objective science. But here's the catch, and this is so important. They stripped away all the religious language, sure, but the moral skeleton, it remained. This deep-seated belief that you have to earn your worth, that you have to prove your goodness through productivity, and that you have to sacrifice your present happiness for some greater future, that part never went away. It's still right there at the core of the system. So, is this the only way? Of course not. What if there's a more balanced way to think about all this? Let's check out a totally different framework just to see that our current system isn't some inevitability, it's a choice.
Okay, so this is the classical Indic framework, known as the four Purusharthas, or the four aims of a balanced life. And what's so wild and different about this is the role of wealth, which is called artha. It's not the end-all be-all. It's just one of four equal pillars for a good life. You've got dharma, which is righteous duty, artha, wealth, kama, pleasure and desire, and moksha, spiritual liberation. See, in this worldview, wealth is just a tool. It's not the ultimate prize.
This chart really lays it all out. When you put the two worldviews side by side, the differences are just stark. The Western paradigm's primary goal is unending growth and success. The Dharmic paradigm? It's about a balanced life. In one, wealth is a sign of virtue, almost like salvation. In the other, it's a tool that's secondary to your duty, or dharma. It just goes to show you that our modern economic religion is just one possible operating system for a society. It is not the only one.
So, this is all really interesting. But how do we actually use this to make sense of the confusion we feel? Well, the source material gives us this awesome three-layered model to help us diagnose what's really going on.
Okay, so think of any civilization, any culture, as having three layers. At the very top, you have policy. These are the visible things, the rules, the laws, what a civilization does. Underneath that, you have the paradigm. This is the invisible lens, the hidden assumptions about how the world works. It's how a civilization sees. And at the very bottom, the foundation, is the philosophy. These are the deepest beliefs about reality, about what's good and true. This is the ground a civilization stands on.
Now, that feeling of misalignment we talked about at the very beginning, it comes from these three layers being totally out of sync with each other. For instance, you might have policies that don't actually solve the problems they're meant to, like with population decline. Or we talk a big game about freedom, while our whole lives are organized around control. My favorite one is promoting mental health in work cultures that literally punish you for being still. It's a sign that the system doesn't even know what kind of human it's supposed to be supporting anymore.
And that brings us to this incredibly powerful idea. When a society starts adopting policies and paradigms that just don't match its foundational philosophy, maybe by borrowing them from another culture, it's not growth. The word for it is deracination. It's a slow, painful uprooting of identity, of language, of meaning, of everything that makes a culture what it is.
So we're going to leave you with this question. We know the system feels misaligned. We can feel it in our bones. But now we have a framework to ask a much better, much more precise question. If we want to create real, lasting change, if we want to find our footing again, which layer do we need to focus on? Is it the policy, the paradigm, or the philosophy? Where does the work really begin?